Chief Meteorologist Frank Johnson spent today with the hurricane hunters at Myrtle Beach International Airport. And Frank, what are you expecting for us?
It's going to be mostly rain for us. That is the biggest impact from this. It's going to be a slow mover. It is early season, and it's very hard to get a lot of strong wind on an early season storm, but there's plenty of moisture. Take a look at the satellite picture, and you can see the storm system churning off of Florida. Very disorganized today. Not a whole lot to look at, but it should organize as we head through tomorrow and perhaps get a little bit stronger. There's plenty of moisture off of Florida, and if you look at the radar loop, you can actually see the rain has some rotation to it. So there is some turning in these clouds, and that is the start of an area of low pressure that is forecast to become a little stronger over the next day or so, perhaps even becoming a subtropical or tropical storm. The computer model forecasts for this, they all pretty much bring it off to the north and then eventually northwest. Notice by Friday evening, they are off the South Carolina coast, and as we head toward Saturday, they really don't move much. This is going to be a slow-moving, wobbling system, may even stall, and may even hang around into Sunday or even Monday before it finally moves on out of here. And because it's going to be such a slow mover, it's going to be mainly a rain impact for us. Now, the Hurricane Hunter airplanes are not flying into this storm today, but they are on standby to fly into the storm tomorrow. And two of the Hurricane Hunter planes are here in Myrtle Beach. They are gassed up and ready to go for hurricane season. The Hurricane Hunters have been flying planes into hurricanes since the 1940s, and their mission today is much the same as it was then.
The Hurricane Hunters collect data for the forecasters at the National Hurricane Center.
Over the years, several different planes have served as Hurricane Hunters, but in 1963, the Air Force Reserve started using C-130s. These sturdy, dependable aircraft were perfect for the harsh conditions in the eye wall of a hurricane, and they're still in use today.
The C-130 in the normal world is the SUV of airplanes. Is made to do combat resupply on unimproved surfaces, whether it be dirt, gravel. It can take a beating. And this aircraft is exactly the same as all of those, except for a few weather instruments we put on the outside and a few pallets of equipment to take the data inside.
In addition to the WC-130s, NOAA has been flying P-3s into the hurricanes since the 1970s and the G-4s since the 1990s.
The NOAA G4 flies around the storm, dropping instruments that collect data that goes into our computer model forecast. The U.S. Air Force plane, C-130, it actually flies right through the eye, collecting wind and pressure information that comes right into the forecasters.
These aircraft are important tools in gathering information about tropical storms that help with forecasting where the storm will go, how strong it will be, and how that storm will act once it reaches land.
The Air Force C-130 will be flying low into the eye wall of the storm and into the center. That's their mission, to understand what's going on with the inner dynamics of the storm, hopefully to get a better forecast on intensity changes, especially a storm that's going to rapidly intensify. Our mission is more on a surveillance type mode to look at the steering current surrounding the storm and get a better track forecast.
Since tropical storms form and spend most of their lifetimes over the ocean, aircraft are the best way to gather weather observations from inside the storm, since ships and islands can be few and far between. The more information we can get from a storm, the more accurate a forecast will be.
According to the National Hurricane Center, the data that we provide them improves their forecast accuracy by 25 to 30%. And if you think about it, if the cone of uncertainty, say, is 200 miles of coastline, and we can improve that by 25%, we narrow that down to 150 miles.
Flying airplanes into hurricanes is a dangerous business, and 6 times Hurricane Hunters have flown into a storm and not returned. Most of those lost flights were in the 1950s. The first flight into Hurricane Hugo almost ended in disaster when the plane hit the extreme turbulence of a Category 4 hurricane. But the information gathered by these planes is worth the risk.
I believe it's worth the risk. They've been flying in hurricanes since before I was born. The people that went before me learned many techniques how to safely navigate through a hurricane.
In the past few years, the National Hurricane Center has experimented with drones, which can fly into the storms without risking human life.
Someday, it could be that the unmanned capabilities get to the point where they can become one of the operational tools, if not the primary operational tool. But I still think we're a ways away from that, and there's a tremendous amount of advantage to being able to send the aircraft of the size that we do with all the different instruments that are on them into the hurricanes that we do today.
In addition to the drones, newer satellite and radar technology makes it possible to measure tropical storms from a safe distance, But for the time being, this data is not nearly as valuable as what is gathered by the hurricane hunters. And today's visit was part of NOAA's Hurricane Awareness Tour. The planes have already been in Halifax, Atlantic City, and Norfolk, and tomorrow they take off for St. Augustine and then Marathon, Florida. Reporting live in Myrtle Beach, I'm meteorologist Frank Johnson.